What the fuck, January? Like, what the fuck? There was a riot at Capitol Hill? Like a full-blown insurrection? There's a new strain of COVID that's like way more dangerous and way more infectious than the strain that's already out there. And like everything, the lockdown has been extended yet again here in Ontario, and everything is just, it's fucking chaos. There's been some pretty good tunes though, so at least we got that going for us. Today we are reviewing a slew of records that, for whatever reason, I did not get the chance to properly review in the month of January 2021. This particular January has been surprisingly cram-packed with material, and as such there are quite a few albums we're going to be talking about today, but we're going to try and get through this as quick as possible because I've got adult shit to do, like outside of the Metal Meltdown. I know, hard to believe, I have a fucking life. Crazy, right? So with that in mind, let's just jump right the fuck into it, and let's start with Holy Ground, the latest studio album from Australian and American hard rock supergroup The Dead Daisies. Featuring members of Deep Purple, Whitesnake, and Journey, The Dead Daisies play exactly the sound that you probably think they play after having heard that description. It's very generic, very cookie-cutter, cliche 70s American hard rock. By no means incompetently performed or produced, just not especially interesting at all. I actually struggle to remember a single song from this album off the top of my head. Yeah, that's it for me. I don't know. If you've got like a hyper-conservative older member of the family who misses the glory days of 70s hard rock when he could fuck, drink, and scream without consequence, then he'll probably like this. But yeah, I really wouldn't recommend it to anyone else. This is actually a pretty damn solid example of what I would call just straight up fucking boomer rock. Next up, we have Immortal from the Michael Schenker Group, which is yet another really boring boomer rock record. Holy fucking shit. The boomers were fucking busy this January. Like, my god. Sammy Hagar, Accept, Dead Daisies, and now this. My fucking lord. Yeah, I don't really have anything to say. Unlike the Accept record, I don't even think the production is that great on here. It's just a really piss-poor heavy metal record. I don't know. If you're just looking for a bunch of stupid fucking riffs and guitar solos, then maybe you'll get like 10 seconds of enjoyment out of this, but honestly, I would just as easily and happily recommend any of Michael Schenker's earlier records over this any day of the fucking week. Yeah, I don't feel like I missed anything by not reviewing these. I'm really only bringing them up here because I know that somebody eventually will bring them up, and I just don't really feel like going through that whole ordeal all over again. Feel free to tell me in the comments that I'm some entitled millennial, or I just don't understand real rock music. Whatever makes you sleep better at night, you fucking boomer. Next up, we have something semi-interesting. Fucking finally, it is Defilements, a brand new demo and compilation record from Coffins, a Japanese underground death and doom metal band. One I'm not truthfully very familiar with. I mean, I've heard the name, but I've never really listened to any of their other records, so this was actually a really cool record to explore and sink my teeth into. A lot of nasty and grimy fucking stuff here. If you are looking for some seriously hellish and brutal material, congratulations, you hit the fucking jackpot, because there is 2 fucking hours of seriously gnarly, brutal death doom on here. Consistently fucking gross and uncompromising as hell. It is fierce, it is in your face, it is ugly in the best fucking way possible. I would highly recommend this, and I very much look forward to exploring an actual studio record from Coffins in the near future following this album. This is definitely a band I'm going to have to spend more time exploring in the near future. On that note, if by chance there are any Coffins fans out there, you want to recommend me a good starting point, let me know, because this band has a ton of fucking releases, and I'm curious if there's like anywhere specific that I need to start, so let me know, please and thank you. Next up, we have a semi-new EP from Ingested, entitled Stinking Cesspool of Liquified Human Remnants. If that name sounds familiar to you, it's not a coincidence, because this is in fact a re-recording of a previous EP that the band put out independently in 2007. And this sounds pretty much like the old one. I mean, at the very core at least. It's definitely a little bit heavier, a little bit more metallic, a little bit crunchier, a little bit more brutal, sonically speaking, definitely benefiting from those unique leader resources, but it is ultimately the exact same EP they put out 14 fucking years ago. So if you didn't like that EP, I really doubt that this would somehow change your mind. Next up, we have Breaking the World from Pounder. This is the second studio album from this American old-school heavy metal unit, the latest brainchild from Matt Harvey of Exhumed fame. Look, let's all be honest with ourselves here. Matt Harvey is not known for writing the most ambitious material, shall we say. But what he lacks in ambition, he consistently makes up for in energy, in attitude, and in authenticity, and Breaking the World is no fucking different. It is a very simple, greasy, super raw, super catchy, laid-back slam of very late 70s and early 80s heavy metal, with fist-bumping riffs, speedy rhythms, some pretty rough vocals from Matt Harvey, particularly on the more melodic and anthemic cuts, but all things considered, it's a pretty decent collection of old-school rock and metal nostalgia. Next up, we have The Cult from Crystal Viper, a band that I'm not especially familiar with, but I am curious to check out more of their material because what they got going on here is pretty fun. Getting a very late 80s, early power metal kind of vibe from this whole thing with just a little bit of a speed metal spice. A lot of great riffs, a lot of fun solos, a lot of strong hooks and melodies. I really like the sound mix on this thing as well. It really does make the album feel like some kind of long-lost gem of the 1980s. Of all the old-school heavy metal that has been sent my way in the past month, which is very weirdly a large list, I would say that Crystal Viper is near the top. Pounder is here, and the Dead Daisies and Sammy Hagar and Accept and Michael Schenker, they're all down here. Just like, woo! Bottom of the fucking barrel. Definitely give this a shot if you're looking for some nasty heavy metal. And if you're looking for some more nasty heavy metal, boom! Sky Destroyer from Midnight Spell. Honestly, you could probably take almost everything I said about that Crystal Viper record, you could apply it to this record and change literally nothing. It's another damn fine piece of really old school heavy metal. I do like the sound mix on this a little bit more, I'll say that. It's a little bit more bold, a little bit more dynamic, but ultimately I feel the same way about this album that I do about Crystal Viper. I guess with that in mind, I'd put it right there at the top again with Crystal Viper. Once again, Pounder's about here. Once again, Dead Daisies, Accept, Michael Schenker, Sammy Hagar. Y'all know the fucking drill. The boomers go to the bottom. End of story. I don't like the next album that we're about to talk about, but I'm happy that we're talking about it simply because it's not an old school heavy metal record, and I'm running out of talking points for old school heavy metal. We're talking about Follow Your Nightmares, the debut album from Damon Gray. So oftentimes I will receive promotional materials from a small Canadian company called Looters PR. They work very closely with Metal Blade, Spine Farm, Fearless Records, and a bunch of other smaller labels. They've helped me set up interviews in the past with members of the Black Dahlia Murder, The Ocean, Vile Creature, and many more. They're a really cool company, but I've been kind of annoyed with them lately because they've been pushing the fuck out of this record from Damon Gray. They keep fucking sending me shit about this album. So I think for that reason alone, we need to address it. Honestly, I don't know why they've been pushing this thing as hard as they have, because I thought this was a really irritating, annoying, cringeworthy fucking industrial butt rock record. Like, the worst elements of Rob Zombie and fucking Godsmack and Nickelback and 3 Days Grace all thrown into a fucking blender with stupid fucking lyrics, stupid fucking overproduced vocals and melodies. The album is just a fucking fart of modern rock. It is just utter fucking trash. This Damon Gray character, if that is in fact his name, probably has one of the most generic rock voices I've heard in a while. He doesn't sound any different from any of the singers from any of the other fucking bands we've mentioned. I just couldn't get into this thing whatsoever. I genuinely do not fucking like this record. I kind of hate it on some level. It's just really fucking crappy, really fucking overproduced, really fucking cringeworthy. If for whatever reason you miss the glory days of bands like Hinder and Papa Roach and Trapped, maybe this'll do it for you, but, yeah. Don't listen to this fucking thing. It's fucking crap. Let's just leave it at that. Next up, we have Godslastering, Hymns of a Forlorn Peasantry from a band called Hulder. I've heard a lot about this band in the last couple of weeks. Banger TV talked about them. Some of y'all have been sending in some recommendations, asking me to review this band, or at the very least take a look at them, and I have caved in, and I have done so, and this is pretty fucking cool, dude. I dig it. I can see why there's a decent amount of hype and talk around this thing. Very fucking raw, primitive, atmospheric black metal with a lot of spooky soundscapes, some nasty, dirgy riffs, some very in-your-face, venomous black metal vocals. Personally, I prefer my black metal to be a little bit on the heavier side, sonically speaking, you know, a more metallic, brooding kind of sound mix and guitar tone, but all things considered, I actually really enjoyed a lot of this album. I think anyone looking for some really spooky, super old school style atmospheric black metal is going to have a lot of fun with this. Next up, we have Womb from Juan. I checked this out because I was interested in hearing some really funky, super experimental mathcore kind of shit, and I definitely got that on this album, but I don't know, there are times where I feel like maybe this album is a little bit too weird for its own good, a little bit too angular, a little bit too fucked in the head. It feels like some bizarre, fucked up combination of Mr. Bungle, the Dillinger Escape Plan, Refused. There's post-hardcore influence in here. There's pop-punk influence on here. There's 90s metalcore influence on here. There are a lot of weird soundscapes and vocal techniques, and it's just all over the fucking place. It's kind of fascinating for being so all over the place, but not to the point where I could really recommend this to anyone who wasn't already looking for something utterly fucking bizarre. I admire Juan for just going balls to the wall crazy on this thing, but I wouldn't really argue with anyone who passed this band off as being pretentious, because they kind of are. This album just doesn't really make a lot of sense, and it tries way too hard and way too many parts. Next up, we have Bushmeat from Digypus, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm honestly not sure. Here's what I do know. I weirdly kind of dig this thing. I feel like I shouldn't, because it's just so grisly and nonsensical and overtly gruesome, but at the same time, that's also kind of why I love it. It's very self-indulgent, it's very bizarre, it's very gross and nasty. You can practically feel and smell the pus and the blood dripping out of this fucking thing. It's got a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek edge, which I really like as well. I feel like if Gwar ever became like a super underground Death Doom band, this is probably what they would sound like. I would actually really recommend this. I really like this thing. Of all the stuff that has come out of super underground death metal in the past month, this stands out as one of my favorite records. And finally, I've got something very funky, very strange, very out there for all you black metal connoisseurs. It is an album called M from a band called Magdalene, sent to me by another YouTuber named Feiner. Shout out to you, good sir. Hope you're doing well. This is fucking strange in the best way possible, man. This is some very experimental, atmospheric, avant-garde black metal, but with old school production value, and it's all being championed by a highly religious, specifically Christian man whose views actively influence the music itself. It is bizarre, it is strange. I can very honestly say there isn't a lot of other black metal out there that sounds quite like this. Because this thing is so extremely obscure, I'm going to leave a link to this album in the description of this video, because you won't find it on Bandcamp, you won't find it on Spotify, you won't find it anywhere other than YouTube as far as I can tell. I highly recommend you get the chance to check this out if you get the opportunity. It is just so utterly strange and interesting and powerful, and it's just great. Just go fucking check it out. Go listen to some weird, spooky, super fucking out there black metal. Go do it. Just do it. That's all. And booyah! That's it for me. Those are all the albums I wanted to talk about. Those are all the albums that I feel I missed in January 2021. Let me know, is there anything else I should be checking out? Anything I should be on the lookout for in the near future, for perhaps the next month? Make sure you press subscribe right here so you get updates on the Metal Meltdown e-fucking immediately. And as always, you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.